to build. You can build with God or you can build without God, but make no mistake, in life you're building. You can be the general contractor or you can be the instrument, but make no mistake, you're involved in the building. And in our families, when you don't have God as the builder, then you lose purpose for your family. And for most people, the purpose for their family is traditional. We want to survive. We want to make a name for ourselves. We want a legacy. We're building for something for the generations, for our future, for our children's children. A lot of insurance salesmen love to use that phrase. I'm building a future for my family. Because you feel like I've done the right thing. And that's not a bad thing. That's a responsible thing. But really, we are building a family, and God is the one doing the building. Making babies doesn't build a family. It just populates it. That's all it does. Procreation was meant for population, not for foundation. Adam and Eve were the foundation. Everybody that came after them was just population. God is the one building the family. Because God is the one that put Adam and Eve together. They didn't put themselves together. God did that. And then the children were the result of population. We can't confuse population with family. We can't confuse population with copulation. It's not the same thing. And so many times in life, you're building your careers, you're building your bank accounts, your businesses, your reputations, your Facebook followers. You're building so many things in your life. You're building. Every day you're building. But you're doing, and these things often you say, I want to build this for God or build this for my family. But really, you cannot build a godly family without God. The best you can have is a moral family. A moral family. Without God, there is no solutions for our family. Families are made by God. Families are made by God. What are those two things we said about God sets? Action, purpose. Families are made by God. Action. Families are made for God. Purpose. What is the action of my family? Everything that God does in my family is for His purpose for my family. And every family has a unique purpose with God. Did you know that? As unique as your life is with God, so is your family. That's why you were not randomly placed. You were placed in a specific family for a specific reason at a specific time in history. There's purpose to your family. And you won't discover that without God. Or you'll make your own purpose, like in Romans chapter 10, 1 through 3. Israel saw the purpose of God and made their own. You'll hijack your family from God. It can happen. Families are here for action and they're here for purpose. And actually, families are part of God's design for this planet. God decided, it's called the doctrine of divine establishment. It provides and it protects for humanity and the interaction of society, regardless of their relationship with God. God said on this earth, there are divine establishment rules for how we as human beings function with each other. God definitely wants us to have a relationship with each other with certain boundaries or rules. And these divine establishments or institutions, there's 5 of them, they help establish human beings on the earth. The first one is free will, the right to choose. In Genesis chapter 2, 16 and 17, free will. Marriage, Ephesians chapter 5, 22 to 33. Family, Ephesians chapter 6, 1 through 4. Government, Romans 13, verses 1 through 7. And then national identity, in Genesis chapter 10, 1 through 32. You can listen to that part later. Just giving that to you to think about. So in the middle of these 5 institutions is family. In the middle of it, because family supports and supplies all of it. It involves all of it. The number one building block in a society is not an individual, it's a family. The Old Testament is really about one big family, the family of Abraham. Really. And one big family in the New Testament, the church. But it's about families. It's the key thought here is families. Families exist because it's the training ground for the next generation. That's why families are here. God's future plan begins with family. And why am I being laborious with the thought of family today? Because many people don't understand the purpose or the function of family. They don't understand why it's here. They just know they're in one because you're born into one and you don't know what it is. What's important about families is we have a responsibility to educate our children. I'll speak about that a lot today. It's not society's job to train my children. It's not the government's job. It's not the street's job. It's not the culture's job. I'm responsible. God owns everything in Psalm 24, verse 1, but I am a steward of what God gives me. Whatever God gives me, I have a certain responsibility to manage what he gives. Money, skills, gifts, everything. What's amazing about the churches today is that many churches teach you to seek a blessing, but never teach you how to manage it. Go get it. Okay, I got it. Now what are you going to do with it? Got the new job, got the new car, got the money. Now what are you going to do with it? So you just waste blessing after blessing. What's interesting in the Bible, you study the topic of money, by the way. There's over 6,000 verses in the Bible on money. 2/3 of it deal with giving it away. 2/3 of it. And then the remaining third, half of that deals with getting it, half of that deals with managing it. But 2/3 talks about giving it away. It's amazing. You don't hear those messages, do you? You hear the get it message. But at any rate, the family is the main teacher for your life. That's where you first do all your learning. Most of the learning you get before the age of 11. And where do you get that at? Your family. Your family. Society's not supposed to train my children. It's up to me. We used to say growing up, home training. Remember that? He didn't have home training. And actually, when you go into the world, you are a business card for the home from which you came from. Things like work ethic, things like hygiene, those things I get there. Those are lessons. What's happening right now in our country is that there is an imbalance in instruction. If I don't learn those lessons at home, I have unbalanced instruction. It can lead to this. Number one, there are lessons that I should have learned at home that I have to learn in the street. Number two, there are lessons that were taught me at home, but didn't prepare me for out there. Maybe I was taught at home, but it didn't prepare me for out there. Number three, there were lessons that I learned that were taught, but when I got out there, it hindered me out in the street. Maybe some of us, we grew up in broken homes, maybe single parents, divided, divorced, challenged, and it contributed to unbalanced training. It happens. But when you come from that result, when you come from that background, and many of us do. For instance, in America right now, 67% of all families are blended families. 67%. That's 2 out of every 3 marriages in this family are blended on some level. One or both partners have children outside of that marriage. From either a previous marriage or previous relationship, it's blended. So we're very, very, we're not traditional. So our backgrounds are just challenged. And the results of that is either, number one, when you grow up in a household like that, the first challenge is you're overexposed to information earlier than you should be. Alcohol, drugs, money, all kind of things. You're pushed into adult situations and you don't have the maturity for it. I watched a young girl one time when I was going to go door knocking. Her mother, at 8 years old, sends her down the street to go buy cigarettes, feminine napkins, and a beer. She's 8. You're getting all these adult opportunities that you don't have the head for it. You don't. You're overexposed to information much earlier than you should be. Or the other converse happens. You're underexposed to certain situations that you should have gotten at home, so you have to learn them later in life. In interesting areas like responsibility, hygiene, even, social skills, money management, things that you should have gotten at home at some point, But then you're in the world and you don't know how to do these things. You're socially illiterate. You can't function. You didn't get that lesson early. And the internet has made this worse, actually. Far, far worse. It's the worst parent in the world is the internet. It's information without capacity. It's the problem. And then there's a new culture in the last quarter century in our country where parents are more concerned about protecting their kids than preparing their kids. Helicopter moms and helicopter dads, we hover over our kids because we want them to be safe, but they're not prepared. So yet we put helmets on skateboards and mouth guards on bicycles, but they're not prepared for that world. They don't have the social skills to survive. I remember with my daughter, she ran into a few situations, and I said to my wife, leave it. I want her to experience some disappointment. Everything is always sorted out here. She's not ready for it out there. Let her get it now. Let her be disappointed now. Let her taste its failure now. Let her taste that, because that's out there. It's like you got to be careful that you're not protecting your kids so much that they're not prepared for life. They're not prepared. I mean, we live in a great country. America is a great country. The quality of life for young people has improved exponentially. They get better food, better clothes, better programs, better books. But are we preparing them for living out there in the world, for the passive life? Are we preparing them? Are we making a lot of them self-indulgent, lazy, entitled, frustrated? So what happens is when they come out and they're not prepared, they suffer out there when they go back in life, and that's why many of them come back home. They weren't ready for out there. It's a struggle. Or, worse, the life that they learned here, they go take that and reproduce that. We're raising a generation of artificial mature children. They're mature in certain areas. They can write a blog, but they can't add. I went to Whole Foods 2 or 3 months ago, and the cashier was taking my order, and there was some malfunction with the calculator, and she couldn't change $50. She couldn't figure out the change for $50 for $26.46. She couldn't figure it out. She had to pull out her cell phone, pull her calculator out, and figure it out. We're talking about someone that looks like she's about 22 or 24 years old. We're teaching a generation not to think, but to get something to think for you. The convenience is removing contemplation. It's interesting with our families. They have too much information and too little application. So they know a lot and can't do anything. They know a lot. What they don't know, they Google. They go to the college of YouTube and they figure it out. It's amazing what they can figure out through the internet. But they have access to so much information and too little application because they lack capacity. They lack capacity. They were exposed too early to life to some things, or exposed too late. And people that live in this artificial maturity tend to be two things. It's so interesting. They can be highly arrogant. I know what's going on. I know life. I know what I'm doing. I know God. Then on the converse, besides being highly arrogant, they have extremely low self-esteem. I feel like a failure. I don't have a future. I don't have any value. So I know everything, but I feel like trash. And this is how they are. So when you counsel them, on the one hand, I know. On the other hand, my life is falling apart. It makes them confidently frustrated. Confidently frustrated. So what do we do as parents when we have kids like that? There's two outcomes for children like that. They walk away from God, or they walk deeper in faith towards God. How do I get them not to walk away and to walk deeper? The answer is, I need God's family to help me build my family. God's family builds God's families. It takes the house of God to raise our children. It's always been that way. What's interesting, and even in the Old Testament at the tabernacle, in the Jewish law, when parents had a problem with their kids, they brought the child to the door of the tabernacle, to the high priest. They brought their children problems to the tabernacle, to the church. I had a woman call me 6 months ago. She said, my son, he talks about you. My son, well, listen to me. I found your number in his phone. I called you for help. I said, I'm glad you did. You didn't call social services. You didn't drag down four uncles. You called the church. How can I help? Well, he says it's Saturday, and it's the Sabbath, so he's not carrying groceries. I said, oh, really? I said, he lives in your house? Yes. He's 26 years old. Yes. Oh. He's not going to help you carry groceries? Yes. And he should live somewhere else. What? Yeah. You allow him to live in your house and give you orders in your house, he should find his own house. He wants to do things his way. She put me on speakerphone. And I said it again. He said, what? I said, yes. And then he went and picked up the groceries. At any rate, that's what it takes. It takes God's people. That's what turns the child or the teenager who wants to move away from God closer to God. Because they get God's mind about life. God's mind. God's family builds God's families. And then the gap between what they know and what they learn gets closed. But I want to give you tonight, for your own thoughts, 20 ways as a godly family you can encourage young people in this environment. 20 ways. These are lessons that you should get at home in life. 20 lessons you should get at home in life that will help you as a member of a family and that will help you with your young people in your family. The first one is this one. You should learn in life early that failure is part of life. It's part of life. You will not succeed at everything. You will not succeed at most things. So be comfortable with the fact that it might not work. Failure, you should learn that early in life. You should learn early in life that failure is part of life. It's part of the process of learning. Correction, if there's no correction in your learning, you're not learning. It means you got to get it right every time. So there's got to be correction in my learning. If there's correction in my learning, I mean, somewhere I failed to do it. Okay, it's not a bad word. Society and morals make that word failure a bad word. Failure is not bad. It just means, okay, I get a second, begin again. How about that? Begin again, right? When you felt, what's interesting is when you didn't know what failure was, you didn't even pay attention to it. Till someone told you what failure was, that's when it became bad. When you tried to walk and you couldn't walk, you just kept trying to walk. Till someone told you, oh, the fact you can't walk is a bad thing, then you didn't try to walk anymore. You said, I'm a failure, I won't try to walk anymore. There's a story about elephants in India. I believe they're Bengali elephants? Might be. The smaller elephant, what are they called? The Indian elephant, thank you. They're smaller. They're not as big as the African elephants. They're smaller. But they had a hard time taming them. So what they would do is they would tie a rope around them. When they were young, they would tie a rope around them. And at that age, they didn't have the leg strength to pull out of the stake. But they tried for maybe the first 6 months of their existence trying to pull off that stake, and they couldn't do it. As they got bigger, they never tried anymore. Because where they had failed in their youth, they never tried to test the rope again. So as long as you put the rope on it and you give them failure in the beginning, that failure will paralyze them the rest of their life. It's amazing. Some people, the rope is still around their ankles and they're adults because they failed as a young person and they assume that I have failed, I'm a failure. Accept it as part of life, not your life.
Wow.
Failure happens to us all. The only person who lived on the earth and didn't fail was Jesus Christ. But in actions, he did fail for us because we did fail. He who knew no sin, 2 Corinthians 5:21, became sin that we might be made the righteousness of God. Number 2, no one owes you anything. No one owes you anything. Destroy the spirit of entitlement. No one owes you anything. When you have that in the back of your mind, you can be more appreciative and more thankful for what you have. No one owes you anything. They really don't. You owe, okay. They don't really owe you anything. Respect? If you've got to demand respect, then something's wrong. That's something you shouldn't have to ask for. No one owes you anything. Number 3, your knowledge of Jesus should never suppress or surpass your obedience to Jesus. Your knowledge of Jesus should not surpass your obedience to Jesus. What does that mean? Meaning this: I'm more interested in obeying God than trying to know everything about God. So I know this much about God. I'm going to obey the little bit that I know. I don't have to search out the deep mysteries. I don't have to seek the unknown will of God when I've got the will of God right in front of me. I can walk in that. Number 4, the most important skill you take out of your mother's house, the most important skill you take to a job is working hard. Working hard. Work ethic. We should teach our kids to work hard. That should be a culture in your home. Work hard. Work hard. Work ethic. We said this yesterday. One of the things that Christians were known for in the 40s and 50s in America, when you hired a Christian, they're going to work hard. That was their testimony. Hard work. Not so much anymore. But working hard is the most important skill you take to a job. It's the most important skill you take out of your mother's house. Next, number 5. God is never far, but he seems closer when you draw near to him. God is really not far, but he seems closer when you draw near to him. Next, every decision has a benefit or consequence. Weighing the difference is wisdom. Every decision has a benefit or a consequence. Weighing or knowing the difference, that's wisdom. That's also the definition for prudence. Okay, I'm going to make this decision where this is going to go. I do that with my daughter sometimes. I have an answer for her about somebody. I want her to process it. Okay, you want to do this? Let's think, where is this going to go? How is this going to work? Help me understand how this is going to work. Let's have a conversation about it.
Why do you know the difference is what?
Wisdom. Number 7, happiness is not a goal, it's a result. We can't teach our kids to have happiness as a goal. Happiness is not a goal for my family. It's a result of my family walking with God. Happiness is not a goal, but a result. Number 8, when you take responsibility for yourself, that's how you set yourself free. Take responsibility for you. If you always want others to take responsibility for what happens in your life, you're a prisoner. It's always this person, it's always that person. It's convenient because you don't get the blame, but the sad reality is you might not get the blame, but you're now a prisoner to that person's ownership. Taking responsibility for yourself is what sets you free. Number 9, where there is no struggle, there is no real growth. Don't run from it. Engage it. There's no advancement without adversity. Everybody wants to advance, they don't want the adversity. Everybody wants a testimony, they don't want to test. Without struggle, there's no growth. Number 10. Maturity means realizing that life is more than what you do, more than what you say, more than what you think, more than what you feel. Life is more than that. Maturity means you're able to think outside of your little bubble of life, your little circle of how life should be. Maturity means realizing life is more than what you say or do or think or feel. I feel this way. Okay, feel that way. But life is more than what you feel. Well, I see it this way. Well, life is more than how you see it. Life is more. Next. Being satisfied is not a goal, it's a trap. Be careful. Being satisfied is not a goal, it's a trap. Because once you get satisfied, you start to settle. Once you start to settle, you get passive, familiar. Like, I'm content in God, 1 Timothy 6:6, but I'm not satisfied. I want all that God has for me. I want all of that. I want to know him as much as I can know him. I'm not satisfied. Satisfaction, or satisfaction rather, is not a goal. It's a trap. Number 12. This is an interesting one with young children. Life is not fair. Not everybody wins. Jesus Christ did not die so I win. He could have superintended victory to me. He didn't have to die so that I would win. Life is not fair. Christianity is not fair. Is it fair that Jesus did no sin and he gets all the sin and I did the sin and I go away free? Is that fair? Is heaven and hell about fair? We don't live by fair, we live by faith. I'm not a Christian because it's fair. It's not fair. Life is not fair. Not everyone wins. Are you okay if you don't win? Get over that. Do you have to win? Does it have to work? Does it have to be your way? That's a very narrow life and a very frustrating one. Next, performance is not achievement. Perspective is. Performance is not achievement. Perspective is. How you see things is far more profitable for you than how you perform, how you do things. Because more often than not, you're going to do it wrong. But your perspective is everything. We said it yesterday. Divine perspective produces divine possibilities. The world says your performance reveals your possibilities. If you do this, then you'll get this. How many of you have done everything the world has said and you don't have it? You didn't get what they promised. You did what Nike said, you did it, and things didn't work out. What happened? Then the world says it's because you didn't do it right. And then you do it again. And you get a vicious cycle of doing and not getting, doing and not getting, doing and not getting with false expectations. It's perspective that matters, not performance. Number 14. Before I do the big thing, I need to learn how to master the little things. I need to learn how to master the little things. I used to work in leadership in the world. And the jobs that I had in leadership, the number one reason why I had to let people go was it wasn't job performance. They just wouldn't show up on time. They wouldn't show up for work, or they wouldn't show up on time. Just showing up. That's a little thing. That's half a leader. That's half of Christianity. Show up. Pitch up. How do you expect to win and not be present? Before you do the big thing, learn how to master the little things. The little things. Next. Making process always means taking risks. Always means that. Faith in itself is a risk. It's a risk. Number 16. Your identity begins, continues, and rests in Christ, not in anything and anyone else. Your identity continues, it rests, and it ends in Christ, not in anything or anyone else. One of the greatest conscious decisions you can make is to see yourself the way God sees you. Rehearse it, practice it, spread it, say it. Paul did, Peter did, John did. They changed how they saw themselves, and it changed their life. Because I'll tell you a secret. If you don't receive God's identity, you'll take another identity. You'll believe somebody else, whatever somebody else says about you. You will. Next, growth and success is never instant. It will take longer than you think. It'll cost more than you want. Growth and success are never instant. People want this quick microwave Christianity. It's not how it works. I've got this problem area in my life and I want God to deal with it. Okay. When? When he's ready to deal with it. But I'm still doing it. And he's okay with that. He is. He knows what he's doing. That's the hardest thing to trust, that God knows what he's doing. That he has my best interests at heart and he knows what he's doing.
Growth and success is never instant. It will take
Longer than you think and cost more than you planned. A lot like construction, actually, now that I think about it. I said this in the Sunday morning service, but the first person you learn to lead is yourself. Any person that cannot lead themselves should not lead people. That's why often in the qualifications for a pastor, it mentions about leading his family. If he can't lead his family, how can he lead the house of God? The first person you learn to lead is yourself. Number 19. Okay, you sure about that? I think you might have missed one. Then he's right and I'm wrong. I'm a failure. Oh my God. Might be it. Yeah, 19? 18? Okay. But everyone's saying that. Okay, I'll go through all of them again, just in case that I'm wrong twice. I've got a lifestyle of being wrong. The most important relationship in my life is with Jesus Christ. There's no one else in your life more important than Jesus Christ. But he's the person you know the least about. And that's why you trust him the least. So get to know the most important person. And when you want to know somebody, what's the first thing you study about them? Their character. Learn the character of God and you'll know God and your faith will grow. Faith leads you to grace, and grace will feed your faith. All right? My number 20, okay? What I practice is what I trust, and what I trust defines me. What I practice is really what I trust, and what I trust defines me.
Wow, that's good.
Okay, so that's, for me, that's 20. Is that true? Okay. Oh my gosh, Melinda, you and me, I'll read them again. The first one is you should learn about failure, right?
Yes.
Second one is no one knows. Third one is the knowledge of Jesus Christ, okay, about obedience. Number 4 is working hard. The most important skill. Number 5 is every decision has a benefit and consequence.
God is never far.
Yeah, that's 5 and 6. Yeah, God is never far is number 5. Every benefit and consequence is number 6, right?
Yep.
7, happiness is not a goal. 8, 9, without struggle, there's no growth. 10, maturity means realizing life. Yep. Number 11, being satisfied. Okay. 12, life's not fair. 13, performance is not achievement. 14, before you do the big thing. Okay. 15, making process always means taking risks, making progress. When you missed that one, making progress always means taking risks. That's number 15. Number 16. Yes. 17. 18.
The most important relationship in my life.
18. The first person you lead is yourself.
Okay.
19. The most important relationship in your life is with Jesus Christ. 20. What I practice is what I trust. Put that in your pocket and chew that for a few days. That's going to be you'll get some interesting things about that when you think about it.
What was 18 again?
18 was the first person you learn to lead is yourself. And we told you Sunday morning how to do that. 20, what I practice is what I trust. What I trust defines me in my experience. So God has set the solitary in families, but he has a purpose in that family that through the interaction with him, you would get to know him. That your family could be a godly family. It's actually God's will that your family could be godly. Never accept anything short of that. Never accept anything different than that. I don't care what's happening in your family. That's not God's will. He allows a lot of things to happen. We said this last night. Maybe you're God's ambassador in your family. You're the light in your family. And you have two things you can do. You can be hard on those in your family who don't walk with God, or you can be a testimony of grace, 1 Peter chapter 5, 12 through 17, or you can be a witness in your family, 2 Corinthians 3:2. You can be a light in your family. Be the light. Instead of criticizing the darkness, be the light. Don't revenge evil for evil, but overcome evil with good. You know, there's very few verses in the Bible that talk about overcoming evil. One of the few verses that talks about it in Romans says, don't revenge evil for evil, but overcome evil with good. Walk with God. So that's my thoughts tonight. Let's take a break.